All right, I'll call this meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item of business is the approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting, August 10th. Been properly moved twice, seconded to approve the minutes. August 10th, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. Public comment, agenda items, no one's here for that, so we'll move on to our new business. Review of the reopening COVID-19 response.
Okay, we got a couple things to go over. I feel like, I apologize that we set it for 6:30. We're going to try to rush, but I feel like there's more and more documents as each day goes by. So, a couple documents just wanted to share with you guys. You guys were in on the email. Frequently asked questions. All the bolded are the questions that were submitted by the staff. So I didn't alter or change any of those. Just answered them as is. So, just wanted to give you guys that document and ask if you had any questions regarding any of those questions or answers. Nothing? All good? Okay.
Everybody's good?
All right. Yep, we're going to be going over those with the staff at the beginning of the year too. So, this continues to be in interesting process. The new documents keep getting put out. DHS just recently put out the guidelines for the prevention, investigation, and control of COVID-19 outbreaks in K-12 schools in Wisconsin. So created two documents actually today that'll be shared with staff during in-service. One is the first one is just kind of, are you a close contact or not? So the term that they're using is the close contact. We've gone through just a couple now where we've had either individuals that were in close contact with someone that's been exposed, or they've tested positive themselves. So it's been kind of a couple test runs just over the last 2 or 3 weeks here. So this document just kind of lays out for staff and students, or for staff, what to do with staff and students and the current guidelines. A lot of the numbers are continuing to change, but these are as of today. So all the bold, so for example, students and staff who test negative for COVID-19 infection but have symptoms, and then, kind of what the process and procedures are. So today at a meeting with Polk County superintendents, had a DHS meeting and then a DPI meeting as well. And a lot of the conversations were surrounding kind of what to do in these different scenarios. And there's been a lot of conversation regarding whose call it is and who makes the decision and who's notifying the parents. As of right now, we work with the Polk County Health Services Department. They're really doing all the communication with the families. They have recently given us an MOU to share information because we're going to need names in real time. And I see us having a live Google Sheet spreadsheet with student names and staff names of when return dates are. So for example, if someone comes in and has been in close contact, which what they're determining is within 6 feet for a cumulative of 15 minutes, then they're giving them the directive to be quarantined. If they have been in close contact and test negative, let me back up. If they test positive, they're quarantined for 10 days. If you've been in close contact with someone and test negative, then you're quarantined for 14 days. So it's a little bit of, like a Dr. Seuss riddle, to be honest. But because of the incubation period, if you test negative, or if you don't get tested, you're ultimately quarantined for longer than you would be if you test positive. So this kind of lays it out for the staff. We're meeting with I asked the head lady from Polk County to come and actually just meet with our staff and answer any questions that we might have. So tomorrow she's coming in at noon to meet with the admin team, Mrs. Karnick, just to ask questions and kind of talk us through the procedures, look at what we have, and then just really answer any questions that we might have. So that's the first document. I'm not going to read through it. If you have any questions, let me know as you're looking through it. But then there's the exclusion from in-person instruction. So kind of how that looks for removing someone from the school, and then for how long they're removed for. So really I think everybody's biggest concern is obviously safety and health. But the next issue that we're going to be dealing with is really staffing. That's a big concern that doesn't really have a whole lot of answers. You know, when students come in the building, I'm just working through the process with Polk County to figure out who's quarantined, or I guess in our term it'd be exclusion, who's excluded from the building, and if the staff members, then how much and how far will we be compromised until we get to the point where we can't sustain, you know, a school day and then have to close down for a small period of time until we can get people back in the building. So those are the two documents that will be shared with the staff on Thursday. Any questions on those? No, feel free to look through them, and if you have any questions, let me know. These aren't for board approval, just wanted to make you aware of what we're going to be sharing out with staff. So if you take those and feel like reading those tonight, and you have any questions, please let me know. All the information you'll see on the last page is taken from this document, the DHS guidelines. So it kind of lays it out in there for you, and I put a link in there if you guys are curious or interested in looking at that document as well. I did make the joke that I kind of feel like I'm in college cramming for a test, except for every other day they switch the subject that I'm studying for. And so it's kind of been interesting as an admin team. We're, you know, looking through, trying to figure out numbers, you know, what the guidelines are, and then bam, you know, a new document comes out and we have to go through, read through it, try to figure out what's been changed, and what hasn't. But we continue to work with Polk County Schools, and continue to move forward. And I feel like we have quite a few things in place, and we'll be ready for September 1. And the staff start this week on Wednesday. Then before we do the building updates, just real quick, the WIA Sports released guidance on what the plan is. Really, bottom line for WIA is the plan is to move forward with sports. So now kind of leaving it up to conferences. Right now, Lakeland Conference has decided to, so for us, that's volleyball, cross country. Volleyball students are going to be required to wear masks during play. All spectators will be limited to only 6 immediate family members. Unless we go to an away game, then the whole school, you know, decides if they have different guidance, or if a board approves something differently. That's the guidance that will be followed. And then for us, then also cheer will be moving forward as well. Football, this is our first year in Dunn, St. Croix County. We meet on Wednesday, and the vote is going to be decided on what to do with football, whether or not football players will be required to wear masks, what the guidelines are for spectators, and kind of work through all of that. But ultimately, if we get into a situation where, you know, there's an outbreak, or a situation where we feel like we have to close down, Polk County will, you know, work with us to make decisions regarding athletics as well as academics. So
is immediate parents and siblings, or is that grandparents? What are they?
It's 6 immediate family members.
Household.
Yep, household family members. Any other questions with that? Okay, and then lastly, with just the update, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Peterson for the building level plans. Mr. Gillis wasn't able to join us tonight.
All right, so I'm going to give you a couple of lengthy documents here, and obviously we're not going to take the time or have the time to go through them in depth. We wanted to give them to you as a reference, as they are, but they're still, you know, they're still works in progress, and I think you've got your copies, right?
Yep, I'm good. Okay. Before Mr. Peterson gets started, I want to just thank, there really was, this is not an administrative plan. Like, there were a lot of people that helped out with this. You know, you'll see in the documents even little things like, you know, recess, lunch, you know, areas that if you left it up to our admin team to decide, we'd probably screw it up, you know, just because the individuals that were involved or that live it every day were part of this process. And I do think that these plans you know, are going to be very fluid throughout the year, and we may week one realize, oh, this is not working, this was not a good idea in this certain situation, so we got to reconvene and figure out new plans for that area just because it isn't working. Because the bottom line is we're going to have, you know, 600 plus kids in 2 buildings, so it's a lot of bodies in two areas.
So, you know, we worked at getting the district guidelines done back in July, got those shared out to parents. That's that nice looking slideshow looking document that you guys reviewed again last month or earlier this month and approved. And then so each of the buildings, then we were left to then look at our details of our daily operations. And so more so than talk about the plans, I'll talk more about the process we used. So, but if you just flip through the plan, like, so the colored one is the elementary one, the black and white is the high school one. They're very similar, they have the same sort of format. But basically, if you look on the left-hand column, it says focus area. And so you can see what we tried to do is create categories. So we've got, you know, all school setting, general classroom setting, small group or individuals, hallways, coat racks and passing times, playground and recess, restrooms and locker rooms, student drop-off and pickup, food service, you know, specials, music, band, ed, transportation, technology use, things like that. So what we tried to do is come up with all the different settings in school and the different scenarios of our daily operations, and then think about what is the day going to look like, and then so the first meetings that we had were back in July 21st, I think, was the first. High school met on the 21st, elementary met on the 21st, high school on the 22nd. We had, the first time, I think there were like 18 elementary staff members. The second time, there was like 22. So, it was impressive. And there was a lot of teachers. There was also some parents and support staff there. So we, basically threw out the invitation, and a ton of people came. And so I think that shows a lot about people's care and their investment in wanting to make a good plan and have their voices heard. So the first meeting was kind of a lot of processing about just kind of how things have been going over the summer and what the current status of things were at. And then the first meetings for both buildings was a lot about like gathering and brainstorming and, okay, what are the questions? What are the concerns? What are the what ifs? So basically it was an opportunity for staff to kind of throw out ideas and say, what are we going to do about this? And it was like, okay, and we had a big screen up here and this chart, and we'd kind of type in notes and comments.
Thanks, Mark.
And then, well, okay, what about this? How about this? Well, here's an idea for this. What if we tried this? So it was basically just kind of collecting a whole bunch of brainstorming ideas. Then we had 2 weeks, and then we met again August 3rd and August 4th, each building. And so the second time, then it was more like we came back with a little bit more of a refined plan, and we took, obviously we used the district plan as our overall guiding document, and used this one to try to talk about the details of each building. So obviously, the high school's not going to spend time talking about recess, and we're not, spending as much time talking about some of the, issues that they have to deal with. So anyway, again, more of the process itself was more about not just developing the plan, but developing an understanding of the plan, so that everybody in the room kind of had a chance to ask questions and give input, and that we all understood what we were saying, not just getting the words. There were people that helped actually put some of the words into the document. But again, more importantly, I think it was just kind of coming to those discussions were as important as anything for everyone to just sort of agree on what the vision of what things were going to look like. What's it going to look like when kids walk down the hall? What's it going to look like when kids go down to the commons here at the high school, when they go to their lockers? Or how are we going to have kids get through the day without going through their lockers here at the high school? Things like that. What's lunch going to look like? So a lot of great discussion, a lot of great input, and Mr. Ernst alluded to too. I said many times, without the group, the intelligence of the whole group just made it such a better plan, and thought of so many more things. I said, well, I could have sat down and come up with a plan what I thought we needed to focus on and try to do, and it would have been a poor plan because there would have been a ton of things that I wouldn't have thought of without the people who are, you know, living in, like I said, living in those spots every day, like Mr. Ernst said, to really talk through it. And then we had a third meeting, and again, kind of broke the staff into teams by wing and just said, hey, can you please think about your day, go through your day kind of hour by hour and all your recesses and your passing times, and just kind of talk through and map out how it's going to look and map out the little ways you can readjust it. And they did. They came up with ways that how they could, you know, tweak, you know, traveling to class by 2 minutes here and 2 minutes there to avoid passing each other in the hallway. How we could adjust recess. You know, kindergarten and first grade and JK came up with a plan to flip-flop their recess and lunch so that there's only one class outside at a time on the small playground. You know, had a playground group that met, which was a bunch of mainly paras and some teachers, but just to talk through ideas on the playground and, you know, what they think is going to work, what's not, what are their concerns. So those are just some examples of things that were talked about and kind of what went into it. And then, so this document is meant to be more of a guide for the staff to use, you know, a reference point to say, okay, what did we talk about? Even for myself, going back through, adding in a lot of information, you know, and kind of finishing some of it, and Mr. Gill's doing the same process, like, you know, thinking back to the conversations, okay, how did we explain that? How did we talk about that? And so this is just that guide book to go back to. This is not, we decided, not a document to share with parents because it's so detailed and so overwhelming. I think parents are just going to look at it and kind of throw up their hands and say, what do I need to know? And that's kind of what we tried to do, like in our newsletters, you know, going home, is just say, here's the synopsis, the overview of the things that parents need to know about or need to, you know, really care about when they send their kids off. And, you know, basing it too on the questions that we were getting from parents. Kind of help guide what, you know, kind of make a summary document for the parents to see what the day is going to look like. So, I do believe, like Mr. Ernst said, we're going to have, you know, parts of this that we're, you know, we're going to live in it in a week or two, and we're going to realize, like, okay, yeah, this isn't working the way we thought it was. Let's adjust our plan. Or hey, this part is overkill, and we're doing too much of this, and we're fine. We can back off a little bit here. So I think it's going to be definitely a living document that's going to need to be adjusted as we go. So,
Good job.
I don't know what
Any questions with those?
people might have, or
Okay.
I do think one might even argue that we wouldn't even been able to complete these without the help of all of the staff members. I don't even know if we could have put a poor plan together, to be honest, just because there's been so much that we've had to do and work on other stuff. So it was a huge help with the individuals that participated in offering their time and helping out with these meetings. So huge thanks to all those individuals.
And I guess we as a board would like to say thanks to all the staff that have put in tremendous amount of hours this summer
Yeah.
yeah,
and laid awake thinking about things even when they're not here.
Yeah.
And just to illustrate that, you know, like there's a few things in here that are not, I still need to tweak because I need to talk to some staff on Wednesday before I can finalize what I want, what it needs to say, you know. So I couldn't do it without the input of the staff. So.
Any questions with those? No? Okay.
Well, then we'll move on then here. Next item of business is the approval of the 2021 Virtual Learning Handbook.
Okay, so virtual handbook. So we have right now. I put just the internal job posting on there for you too, just to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at for that individual. And then the handbook is I shared with you, and then there's also a hard copy in here. So as I said before, distance learning is in the event that we do a short-term shutdown, and classroom teachers are still providing instruction online to those students. Virtual learning is an actual platform, the Edgenuity that we purchased, that families have the decision to opt into. So this is we wanted to make sure that with the distance learning and the virtual learning that it looks very different from last year. You know, last year our staff did an amazing job, but you know, in reality it was a lot of last minute trying to put something together and getting things in kids' hands. This time we know most likely we'll be doing teaching from online, and this program right now we have about 10% of our students, just about 10% that have signed up for the virtual learning program. So it's a program that's tied to the standards. Huge thanks to all the individuals that helped out with this, the virtual learning, not only the handbook, developing the handbook, but also just going through kind of the vetting process and looking into the different programs and platforms that are out there. It really looks like a solid program. Like I said, it's all tied to the standards. It's a K-12 curriculum. It's going to look a little bit different from the younger age to the older age. I mean, younger age kids, a virtual program is their entire grade class. Older level kids will have, an opportunity in rare circumstances where they, may only take 1 or 2 classes if they only need 1 or 2 credits and not an entire grade level worth of curriculum. So just kind of gives you the overview and then talks you through kind of what the expectations are for the students, what it's going to look like for staff member, and then the virtual learning coordinator is going to be a liaison between the district and the Edgenuity program, the virtual learning platform. So that individual, you can see kind of the requirements and job requirements that are going to be associated with that position. A lot of onboarding, signing kids up, talking with counselors. With the virtual learning platform, kids will, once they enroll, there's going to be a 10-day window where they can opt back out into in-person. But once that 10-day opt-out period is over, then they'll have to remain enrolled in the program until the semester is up. They can enroll into the program. We're a lot more flexible with rolling into the virtual learning program, but enrolling out or opting back out, it would be problematic for our teachers. So we didn't think it was fair to just allow families and students to opt in and opt out back and forth. It's hard enough having a kid open enroll into or coming into the district and getting it prepared during a non-pandemic year. But when you're talking pandemic and all the different things that we've put in place to make sure our classrooms are clean and sanitary, that it'd be too difficult for that. Virtual learning students do have the ability to participate in all the co-curricular like any other student. They're still a Clear Lake student. If it's a high school student, they end up graduating. They graduate with a Clear Lake high school diploma. It's just an online platform. Any questions with the virtual handbook? Or Mr. Peterson, anything I missed that you wanted to add? No? Okay.
I got a question,
Yep.
Josh. So we don't have a liaison hired yet.
Nope.
Do we have any possibilities? Do we have any?
Yep. You sent an email out Sunday night and have had multiple staff members reply. So there's definitely some interest.
Okay. And are we going to make kind of a concerted effort prior to day 10 to just kind of make sure that the ones are that everyone's keeping up? So if they're going to be if there's some that need to be brought back into the classroom, that happens?
Well, they will be at semester, but with Edgenuity, they have instructors, there's resources for parents. The liaison would also be communicating with the families if they notice like the student hasn't been online or if there's some issues. And we'd always, if there's extenuating circumstances, we would, as an admin team, we talk and talk that through. But, generically speaking, that we won't be approving kids in and out like that. But
I just had a couple conversations with some people that have opted to do that, and they're doing it to kind of try it out and see where they're at just prior to day 10 to decide if their kid is capable of going forward with it. So
yes, so they'll have that 10-day window to decide, and then if they feel it's not for them, then they can come back into the in-person setting.
And we're at 50 to 60.
Yeah, we're right around, I didn't look today, but we were right around, I think we were in 40 to 50 just a couple days ago. So, and then I saw a couple applications come in today.
Yeah, we had a flurry on Friday at the very end.
Yeah. So we're right around that 10%, which is what, when we surveyed the families, that's about what responded, that said they'd be interested.
all right, so I think I will looking for an approval of the virtual learning handbook.
I move to approve.
And it's been properly moved and seconded to approve the virtual learning handbook. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. Next item of business is the distance learning handbook.
Okay, so distance learning, a huge thanks to everybody that was involved. Ms. Meyer back there was a big help in crafting the distance learning handbook. Multiple people that were involved in this. So like I said, distance learning is in the event that we have a short-term closure. So let's say we have a couple students that have been that test positive for COVID and we have to shut down both buildings or something like that. So we'll right now the recommendation is a 24-hour wait period then you clean the building. That may change by September 1, but as of right now, that's the case. And then you get in there, you clean it. So most likely it'll be, 1, 2, 3, 4 days, depending on the situation, that students will be home, and then that will be delivering instruction from while they're at home. So like I said, we're going to have it look very different from what March. Teachers will be expected to report to the building still, unless there's a situation where we can't get in and clean right away, then they'll be doing it from home. But you'll see the expectations for the teaching staff on page 3. So really at the bottom of page 3, top of page 4, when distance learning is in place, teachers will, and then kind of goes through the bulleted items, on a daily basis, at least one assignment or activity which is supported by instruction, which addresses relevant essential academic standards for class. So the expectation is that there's going to be instruction or materials delivered on a daily basis. And obviously it's going to look a little different from kindergarten to grade 12, just because of the style of the student and what they're capable of. And a little bit easier as they get older to deliver that instruction online. If students don't have internet availability, we're going to be doing the same thing that we did during March, where we're getting those hard copy. Teachers will be responsible for getting material, and then we'll be delivering that material to those families.
What are these requirements will subs have to follow if the teacher's out?
Yep. So what we've communicated to staff in that FAQ is, depending on the situation, a substitute is really going to be dictated by the style of class. So if we do have someone that's out and can't work due to being sick, or a family member that's sick and they just can't deliver the instruction, it might be either we get a sub that is capable of delivering that instruction, or if the instruction isn't conducive to that, or the sub, we can't get a sub coverage, it'll be similar to like a college style, where we'll communicate with the family saying this class is temporarily not going to be delivering instruction during this period of time. Please know that instruction will be delivered at a later time. And I think those are the type of scenarios that we're going to be dealing with, and troubleshooting as we go, depending on the situation and individual. Mr. Peterson, anything else from the distance learning that you wanted to throw in there?
I think just, there was a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but there was, it was just more frustrating in the spring for everybody, because, we went out the door in 2 days and didn't have time to really get anything established and prepared. And I think people were very understanding of that. I mean, parents were very understanding. But I think the 3 things to drive home is that this will be different this year, because, we're going to have, there will be grades. Kids will be expected to complete the work and get it turned in. So there's grading expectations on the students. And that there will be technology at home for elementary kids. That's a huge change. So that's a big thing to drive home to parents. And then the third thing is that there will be some expectation for some consistency coming from the school side too. Consistent learning platforms. We're able to talk through it this summer and decide and pick consistent learning platforms. And then also just to have some, more consistent expectations for what's going to be coming from school, what parents can expect. So I think those 3 big things are just hopefully a big step in the right direction to make parents feel better about it.
And staff, I think too. I think,
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of frustration for all of us is the grading piece last school year. But now we know what's coming, and we'll be grading all the material that needs to get assessed will be assessed.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Seeing none, we'll move on to the junior, senior high building handbook.
Okay, I feel like I'm talking real fast to try to get through this, but,
Do we need a motion?
We need a vote for that.
oh yeah.
Oh, sorry, guys.
I move to approve the distance learning.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second to approve the distance learning handbook. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Now the junior, senior.
Okay. Don't really need to go through the junior senior high handbook. The very last page has all the updates. It's really similar to elementary. Mostly dates have been changed. No staffing changes, thankfully, at the junior senior high. Transportation roster will be changed, and then a couple language changes on page 7 and page 15 to restrictions and then wrap. So not a whole lot of changes for the junior senior high handbook.
All right, look for approval.
I move to approve.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve the junior senior high school handbook. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business is substitution compensation rates.
Okay, so this one I just wanted to visit the teacher substitute compensation rates. We called all of our substitute teachers to see who would be on board with coming back this fall. We do have a couple individuals that, due to their own personal reasons, aren't comfortable coming back in this current climate, which is completely understandable. We pay $100 per day. Plus we offer a free lunch, and I'm proposing that we bump it up to $125 plus a free lunch to try to draw some interest and I guess call it what you will, hazard pay. But I just think we need to at least have that conversation, and then whatever you guys decide is obviously up to you. But I'm just wanted to throw it out there for discussion. A lot of surrounding area schools are, raising their pay. Obviously we can't compete with some of the bigger schools, but some are hiring full-time subs. Some have moved their pay up quite a bit. I think the stealing of substitute teachers has begun. So I want to make sure that we are treating our substitute teachers well. And our subs that we have really do consistently come in their Clear Lake subs. They don't sub other areas. But anyway, I just want to throw it out there and have that discussion and see what you guys thought. So I was bumping that up from 100 to 125.
Sounds good to me.
Good.
I move to have subs compensation at 125 plus lunch.
Second.
Thank you.
Moved and seconded that we increase the substitute compensation rates. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business is approval of home-based private education interscholastic participation.
Okay, so I gave you in my superintendent notes, I gave you the kind of what the law is regarding the homeschool or home base, which is the same thing, home-based private education, which is homeschool students. Homeschool students have if the board approves, have the ability to participate in co-curriculars. We have 2 families. One that you guys approved last year, the very first letter, except I think they added one of their kiddos to the list as far as participating in sports. And then they have the second letter is a new homeschool family that has requested participation in co-curriculars. So if you guys choose to approve those, I would just recommend that we approve the school year, like approval in the co-curriculars for the school year. I know they listed the actual individual sports that they'll be doing, but if we approve as just a school year and participation, then they have the flexibility to move, and it doesn't have to come to the board again. Any questions I gave you the link to the DPI guidelines as well. So do you guys have any questions on the process?
I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the home-based private education interscholastic participation. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Now, the next item of business is the approval of a custodial position.
Okay, brought it up at the last meeting. Didn't get it board approved, but I put the posting out there just looking for approval on a custodian, part-time custodial position in the district with all the increased cleaning. It's been a lot already with the different scenarios that we've had where we've been asking them to clean. And once the school year starts too, the high-risk areas we've identified are going to need more cleaning. So for example, bathrooms are no longer, going to be just cleaned at the end of the day. We are going to be asking or requiring teachers to clean their own areas, and we've already started. In our own areas, I clean my desk and phone, and there's just going to be a lot that we're now all going to be taking on as individuals to make sure everybody stays healthy and safe. But there are a lot more added things that are going to be needed to be cleaned by the custodial staff. So.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve a part-time custodial position. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business is the approval of our new hires.
Okay, we have two new hires. One, we added a town route. So in order to, if you guys remember, originally the transportation was kind of the biggest concern in the early stages of the planning process. We added just a town route. So we have I think we have about 80 kids in town. We're not putting all those on one bus, but we're taking about 30 to 40 kids off of all the buses that live in the town and creating just a town route, which will require one more bus route, but it's going to give us a lot more room on the other buses to spread kids out. So Bo Osmanrud, who is also our IT director, has agreed to do the town route. So he's the first one, and then the interview committee selected, I spelled Macy's name wrong, that should be an N instead of a D at the end. Macy Steffen for the 6th grade position.
I move to approve the new hires.
Second.
It's been probably moved and seconded to approve the new hires. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next item of business is our superintendent notes.
Yeah, I don't have any today. I should have taken that off just because of the reopening stuff, so I'm good, and we're running short on time, so.
Yep, so the next item of business, future agenda items. And then the next item of business is me entertaining motion.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned.